am going to explain about prohibited behavior. What is prohibited behavior? I refer prohibited behavior as don'ts in kumite. Don'ts. What are all the things we must not do in kumite? As a competitor, I must follow certain rules and regulation which is termed by WKF. So WKF has listed out 14 to 15 points in prohibited behavior. If I undergo those points or any one of the point, I will be either disqualified or I will be issued warning. It may be chokuku, keikoku, onchukujui, onsoku. Even in cases, I may get direct onsoku. That means I will be directly disqualified from that particular bout if I undergo some of the points in prohibited behavior. So, prohibited behavior, you can remember prohibited behavior as don'ts in kumite. There are two categories in prohibited behavior, category 1, category 2. So, category 1 consists of 5 points and category 2 consists of 11 points. So, these points we are going to see in detail one by one. Techniques which make excessive contact with regard to the score area. Excessive contact, close contact. For example, at least a 10 centimeter gap must be maintained. In previous video, I have explained about score area. That the video title is scoring in kumite. I will give in description box. So score area, WKF allotted 7 body parts where I can perform techniques. Even if I am doing a effective technique in the score area, but it's in close contact, it's in excessive contact, means I will be issued warning for the first time. If I am keep on repeating this, I will be disqualified from that bout. So this is the first point. Second point will be attacks to the throat. So throat is very vulnerable area. So it is a very sensitive area. If I am keep on repeating things on the throat, I will be disqualified. Then the third point will be attacks to the arms, legs, joints or instep. I repeat, attacks to the arms, legs, joints or instep. I must not do attacks on arms. It is not in the score area. Joints, it is not included in the score area. Then legs. People get confused about legs. There are 7 areas included in the score area, but legs are not included. You can see our score area ends up with abdomen, back, side. So that means our score area is limited till only abdomen. Any techniques below abdomen, groin or legs, that is considered to be invalid and I will be issued warning. So that is the point. Next is attacks to the face with open hand techniques. I can see some of the students, they don't know what to do, how to defend themselves from for example, for any face techniques coming from the opponent. They don't know how to defend that. They will do shuto case or shuto uchis. So it's obvious defending, but I must not do any open hand technique. Open hand technique is totally prohibited. So I must not do any open hand technique. Dangerous or forbidden throwing technique. So throwing is very interesting part of kumite. Students will be always interested in throwing, but while performing throwing technique, they must think about the safety of them and their opponent. So dangerous forbidden throwing technique, there are chances where when I'm going to throw the opponent down by holding his hands. For example, if I'm going to hold an opponent's hand, right hand, if I'm holding and I'm going to throw it like this, the wrist part or the arm part may get injured. it may be swollen up, or there is a chance of going for airline crack also. So dangerous or forbidden throwing technique is not allowed. This is all about category 1. Now we are going to see about prohibited behavior category 1 demonstration. Ready? Vishal Chaka. Shraddha out. Category 1 first point will be excessive contact with the opponent. Ready? Ajmi. MA. So this is excessive contact with the opponent. Category 1 first point. Okay, thank you. Second point in category 1 prohibited behavior. Ready? Say Asaka. Vishal out. Quick. MA. So this is point number 2. Attach to the face with open hand technique. I must not do shoot okay, shoot out. Any open hand technique is not allowed. Okay, thank you.
Start.
Now we are going to see third point in category 1. Smrutaka. Pranav. So this is not allowed. Attached to the throat. Throat is very vulnerable. Throat is a sensitive part. You will get warning next time. Okay, sit down. Thank you. Fourth point in category 1, Chitataka. Keep it out. Okay. MA. So this is prohibited. Attached to the arms. First that's me. MA. Attached to the joints. First that's me. MA. Attached to the groin. First that's me. MA. You must not grab opponent's belt. You must not do instant techniques. Okay? Attached to the arms, legs, joints, groin, or instep. This is the fourth point in category 1. Thank you. Point in category 1 prohibited behavior. Nimalaka. Karan out. Chabajmi. MA. This is one of the prohibited behavior. He did dangerous throwing technique which might break the wrist of animal, or it may lead to any fracture. So dangerous or forbidden throwing technique is the last point in category 1. Thank you. Category 2 in prohibited behavior. There are totally 11 points. We will see each point one by one. First point, feigning or exaggerating injury. Feigning, pretending. The exact meaning is pretending. If I am getting injured, I will react for it. So that is natural. I am not injured. If I am pretending to be injured, I'll be disqualified. So they mean that if I am acting, I will be disqualified. First point. And the second point will be exit from the match area not caused by the opponent. Exit from the match area, jogai, not caused by the opponent. So boundaries of the bout are fixed. I know what are all the while entering bout itself we will see the boundaries. So this is the part I must not go out of it. So I will be conscious, but wantedly if I am coming out of it, I will be disqualified. And the third point will be self endangerment. Self endangerment in the sense, if I'm going to receive one technique, if I know that I must defend myself or I must move away from it, I must know there is a term called dodging. So dodging must be there. I must not get involved. I know for sure he is going to hit me on my face. So I must not just go and stand there and show my face. Instead of that, I should move away from that, or I must defend myself. I must perform some ukes. So that is self-endangerment. And the next will be avoiding combat. as a means of preventing the opponent having the opportunities to score. Avoiding combat. So the previous points defending term is actually misused. So I'm not letting opponent to score point, and I myself not performing any technique to score point and simply wasting the time of the bout is considered to be avoiding combat. If I'm not getting involved and if I'm not allowing opponent also, I'm simply roaming inside the bout and wasting the time, that is avoiding combat. That is simple. Passivity, not attempting to engage in combat. So that the previous point and this point is totally different. Passivity, so I'm going to simply stand, or I'm not going to perform any technique. I am simply going to move from here and there and not performing any technique. In that case, the first time the referee will say tasukute, tasukute, tasukute. He will say fight, fight, fight. But even those many times referee insisted me, I'm not doing, then definitely I'll be issued warning. So next point will be clinching, wrestling, standing chest to chest without attempting a score technique or takedown. Clinching, so I must not do clinching. Wrestling, so wrestling, literally doing wrestling, lifting the opponent, throwing the opponent down harshly. Standing chest to chest, so standing chest to chest in the sense getting closer, again getting very closer, but I'm going closer means I must execute a technique quickly. I must execute a technique because I'm closer to the opponent. But simply going and standing and not involving any technique, so I will be issued warning for first time. If I am repeating the same thing, I will be disqualified. And the next point will be grabbing the opponent with both hands for any other reason than executing a takedown technique or throwing. This is very, very simple. Grabbing the opponent with both hands. So I must not just go and hold the both hands of the opponent, and I must not simply hold the opponent. I must immediately perform some technique. Without performing some technique or without attempting any throw, simply I am going and holding the hands of opponent is totally prohibited. This comes under category 2. So now I have said about grabbing opponent with both hands. So in that there is a note which everybody should know actually. So I can grab the opponent only when executing a takedown upon catching the opponent's kicking leg. I repeat, executing a takedown upon catching the opponent's kicking leg. So grabbing is not allowed. Grabbing is allowed only in a case where I'm going to catch the opponent's kicking leg. I'm just going to catch the opponent's kicking leg and immediately I'm performing one counter technique. That is purely allowed. So grabbing the opponent's kicking leg is allowed. Other than that, grabbing is not allowed. So this is the point. Next point will be grabbing the opponent's arm or karate gi with one hand without immediately attempting a scoring technique or takedown. I repeat, grabbing the opponent's arm or karate gi with one hand without immediately executing a takedown or scoring technique. Again, this indicates I must not just go and grab the opponent's karate gi or arms. Simply I must not go and grab. So that is not allowed. If I am going to grab the karate gi, immediately I must perform the throwing technique. That is allowed. simply grabbing and taking more time, definitely I will be issued warning. The next point will be techniques which by their nature cannot be controlled for the safety of the opponent and dangerous and uncontrolled attacks. I have said previously, while doing throwing techniques, we must ensure the safety first. So, the dangerous or forbidden throwing technique is referred in category 1. Here they are referring to the same thing with a little modulation. Dangerous by which their nature cannot be controlled for the safety of the opponent. So while performing technique itself, I know the effect of technique. Even by knowing the effect of technique and I am performing, I'll category 2 warning will be given, and the continuation will be dangerous and uncontrolled attacks. Uncontrolled attacks in the sense kick, punches, everything, there must be a control in power. So the touching, feather touch, they will call feather touch. While performing any technique to the face, feather touch is allowed. So just I should touch and I should take back. I must not put full power to the opponent face. So he or she may get injured quickly. So dangerous and uncontrolled attacks are referred in this way. Next point is simulated attacks with the head, knees or elbows. I repeat, simulated attacks with head, knees or elbows. You may ask or you may have a doubt now. In score area, head is included. So how you are saying that it is prohibited? Simulated attacks. So that is not, simulated attacks is completely prohibited. Head, knees, elbows, in these three parts, if I am simulating the attack and I am performing, that is prohibited. This is the 10th point of prohibited behavior. Last point of category 2, 11th point, talking to or guiding to the opponent, failing to obey the orders of referee, discourteous behavior towards the refereeing officials or other breaches of etiquette. So talking to or guiding to, these two happens when I'm not controlling my emotions inside a bout. So when I'm inside a kumite bout, I must control all my emotions. I must not go and talk with the opponent. That must not be done. And the next thing, failing to obey the orders of referee. This happens always when a competitor is not ready to agree with the result of referee. They will just go and argue with the referee. During the bout itself, they will argue. So that is not at all allowed. It is completely prohibited. Next thing is discourteous behavior towards the refereeing officials. I have seen many times at the end of the result, the competitors, they will just walk in a tatami. They will walk towards a score supervisor and match supervisor, and they will start arguing with match supervisor and score supervisor. They will blame, or they will use some harsh words on score supervisor and match supervisors. You didn't note my score properly. You were not at all alert. You didn't note my score properly, so that only I got failed. So these things is totally prohibited. They may issue some warning for me, or sometimes they will disqualify me from the bout. And the next, other breaches of etiquette. So the formal manners I must follow. If there is a certain rules and for the behavior, so I must undergo all those rules. And the formal behavior, the formal manners must be maintained with officials, with referee, even with the competitor. So category 2 is over. Now here the upcoming video is a small demo on category 2 in prohibited behavior. 11 points will be demonstrated by my students. Let's go into the video. We are going to see category 2 in prohibited behavior. There are totally 11 points. We are going to see each point one by one in this video. Shakti Bala Saka. Bus. Jones is out. Bus. Let's go into the video. Shobhajani. One must control their emotions when they are insensitive. Jones was continuously talking with Shakti Bala unnecessarily. So talking to the opponent is prohibited. He will be issued warning. Just let me. Arguing with referee. One must not argue with referee. Just let me. Listen. Although Jones was arguing with officials, this is called discourteous behavior with refereeing officials. One must not argue with officials. This is the 11th point in category 2, prohibited behavior. Now we are going to see next point in category 2. Let's go into the video. I think the technique executed by Jones is effective with less amount of power, but Shakti Bala seems to be overreacted. He is exaggerating the injury. That is called fidgeting or exaggerating injury. Now we are going to see next point in category 2. Let's go into the video. Show what's me. This is called avoiding combat as means of preventing the opportunity of the opponent to score point. In this case, you can see Shakti Bala was continuously trying to score points, but Jones Akka was not letting Shakti Bala to score points. He was simply roaming around with the tummy. So this is called avoiding the combat. In category 2, let's go into the video. Show what's me. This is called passivity, not engaging in combat. They both are not fighting, they are simply wasting the time of the dummy. So this is called passivity, one of the prohibited behavior. And there is a note in passivity called, I must not, as a referee, I must not issue warning in the last 15 seconds of any bout. Passivity is allowed in the last 15 seconds of any bout. Thank you. Next point in category 2, let's go into the video. Show what's me. Grabbing the arms or karate gi of opponent and immediately not performing any scoring technique is considered to be a prohibited behavior. If I am going to grab opponent's karate gi, immediately I must perform any scoring technique or any effective technique. So Danish didn't perform any scoring technique. He simply grabbed karate gi of the opponent and he was simply waiting. So this is one of the point in prohibited behavior. Thank you. Next point in category 2, let's go into the video. Show Bajami. Grabbing the opponent with both hands and not performing any scoring technique. The correct point is grabbing the opponent with both hands other than takedown techniques. So this means that I can grab the opponent with both hands and immediately I must perform any takedown technique only. I must not do any other scoring technique, okay? Next point in category 2, let's go into the video. Shabajmi. This is called simulated attacks to the head, knees, elbows. Actually, head is included in the score area as per the WKF rules, but simulated attacks are prohibited. Techniques by which in nature, which is uncontrollable and dangerous to the opponent, is totally prohibited. So there was a close contact with the opponent, but the uragan which was performed by AO, the power from the uragan is uncontrollable. This is one of the points in prohibited behavior. Thank you.